All right, let's talk about the dominant Packers defense. Who saw this coming, especially with their injuries? Like, the Packers defense playing well, that's not a shock, I don't think. But them doing it without, like, Jair Alexander and Zadarius Smith, that's where the surprise really comes in. Currently, the season, they have 1.89 points per drive, which is 10th best in football. So good. However, these past 3 weeks are where things have really gotten fascinating. 3 weeks, they play Kyler Murray, they play Patrick Mahomes, and they play Russell Wilson, of course. And you could argue Kyler didn't have DeAndre Hopkins for most of that game, so that made the defensive numbers look better. Or Russell Wilson, coming back from injury, that made the defensive numbers look better. But they've given up 0.82 points per drive. That's absurd. That wouldn't just be like the best points per drive total like of the season this year. It would be maybe ever the greatest that you would see. Not ever, because back when games would end like 3-0, but at least in the passing era, that would be one of the best ever. Obviously, 3-game sample size. We don't expect it to continue that much because watching the tape, there is some luck involved, obviously. I thought Mahomes missed some throws in that game. I do think that the DeAndre Hopkins absence hurt Arizona. I also think that game was a little bit more play call dependent, whereas these past 2 games have been a bit more game plan dependent. And what I mean by that is play call is just you get the right call in the right situation. Game plan is more the coverage you spend the most time doing gives the opposing team a lot of trouble. These past 2 games, they played a lot of cover 2, a lot of 2 safety deep coverages. And part of me thinks an element of this is because they don't have Jair, they're saying, okay, we need to help out kind of our weaker corners. What they've kind of stumbled upon is that this is actually a really good coverage that has been taking the league by storm, and maybe they'll continue doing it even when Jair Alexander gets back, because why not? It makes some sense to me. So it's a really fascinating situation. I should mention up front, I think this video is probably going to come off more as a Seattle Seahawks bad video than a Green Bay Packers defense good video. And that's because I think that in this game, there was a lot of clunkiness by Seattle. There was. Now, there was also a lot of good by Green Bay, but just the one thing to keep in mind is a lot of why these mistakes came back to bite Seattle so hard was because you're forcing Seattle to drive. You're forcing Seattle to run more plays. When you run more plays, it's just more difficult to score on a per drive basis, which is why teams are, not even being able to score 1 point per drive against this team. So yeah, let's just get into the film. All right, let's do kind of a speed round just to start things off. This one, what you're going to see is, it's just a dropped pass. Wouldn't have gone for many yards, but this is kind of what you saw is there were some Seattle beating Seattle plays. This one just sort of a weird overthrow. Not sure what happened there. Maybe a miscommunication, maybe a throwaway, but probably a miscommunication. On this one, Russell Wilson's going to make the throw downfield. Again, miscommunication. That was a timing thing with him and Lockett. Maybe a missed throw, but probably a communication thing. This one just a drop by DK Metcalf on that one, so that's not very good either. This play is interesting where what's going to happen on this one is it was a cover 3 zone and Kevin King just completely screwed it up, meaning that DK Metcalf is wide open on this play. Unfortunately for Seattle, there was quick pressure, which this can kind of be a little bit luck dependent, right? Whereas sometimes there is the quick pressure, sometimes there isn't, and sometimes that results in you not being able to get a 5-yard completion. Sometimes it results in you not being able to get a touchdown, which very easily could have happened on this play. There's safety help, so maybe it's a tackle, but we know how fast Metcalf is. If Russell Wilson got him the ball quickly, he could have been off to the races. Instead, due to the pressure, Wilson is going to get sacked right here, so that was unfortunate for Seattle. You also have a play like this, where what's going to be interesting about this one is, again, I've circled a Seattle receiver right there. This is once again going to be DK Metcalf, and you're going to see him run a really good move. Watch, he's going to be able to, it's a long developing play. He runs his double move, gets wide open. Seattle just didn't have time to get it there. So there was some stuff like that. Like this play is another good example of kind of some of that stuff where it's going to be a zone coverage play. You have a receiver who's just going to kind of try and sit into that gap in coverage. It's past the first down marker. So this stuff, not really too fancy, but watch what happens. Look, Wilson's going to take the snap right here, and you see that it does not get open down there. But the flip side is, you can kind of improvise. Russell Wilson has all day here, which will happen sometimes with Wilson. The safety on this play for Green Bay is paying more attention to DK Metcalf and is even moving in a little bit for Metcalf. And so you can read this and you can use this to your advantage when you have one of these plays that happens. Freddie Swain is the receiver who I have circled, the one I'm talking about on display. He reads this, and so he's going to say, I'm going to go deep and see what I can do. Look, Wilson is going to eventually find that. He's going to throw one down the field and just kind of underthrew it a little bit. So, again, it's not to take away from Green Bay. Trust me, we're going to show some good Green Bay, but it is to say, like, okay, there also was some Seattle bad, which of course makes sense, right? I mean, Seattle's not going to be perfect in a game where they don't score 0 points. It's not going to be all defense. It has to be some good defense and some bad offense. That has to work. Like, I want to talk about something like this because I'm seeing a lot of DK Metcalf criticism in this game, and the reality is DK Metcalf is getting a lot of criticism because he got himself kicked out of the game. I mean, that's why people are, going to latch on to him a little bit more, and, for good reason. Like, he shouldn't have done that. His stat line wasn't great. I actually thought he played pretty well in this one. He wasn't able to, for a lot of stuff, for whatever reason, when he was getting open, the ball couldn't come his way. That was usually due to either pressure or a double team. But on this play, it is a true one-on-one matchup here, and he's going up against Rasul Douglas. A lot of people were saying, oh, Rasul Douglas shut down DK Metcalf. Not really. Look, right here, what's going to happen is that you're going to see Metcalf just completely dominate and win this matchup and get a solid completion there. The issue is that these just weren't able to happen too much because they rarely let Metcalf be one-on-one with Rasul Douglas. It was similar the week prior with Tyreek Hill and Kevin King. A lot of people were saying Kevin King shut down Tyreek Hill. No, it's just that he had help a lot, which still, if you're the Packers, you're saying, what's the difference? A stop is a stop. The other aspect, of course, is, okay, maybe Kevin King did not actually shut down Tyreek Hill. Maybe Rasul Douglas did not actually shut down DK Metcalf. But you know who has a chance to shut those guys down? Jair Alexander, who at some point should be coming back, and that would completely change his defense. So, or, I mean, honestly, it might not even really completely change his defense. It's an interesting thing, but yeah. And also something like this, I mean, Green Bay just got a lot of pressure. And do you want to give credit to Green Bay? Do you want to give blame to the Seattle offensive line? Dwayne Brown has, not looked that great this year, quite frankly. And this is going to be a good example of just very quick pressure. I mean, look, right away, this is just going to be a bull rush that just completely disrupts the play. It was a 3rd down and 10 right there. So, I mean, you need more than 2 seconds to make the play. Pressure got there in 2 seconds, so that was it. That was game over, basically, unless someone got wide open immediately. So that stuff all really does work together for Seattle and for Green Bay. I did think there were some questionable decisions by Seattle's offense, like something like this, where they're going to run a lot of screen passes. We've seen teams do this more and more when we're seeing opposing teams play cover 2, is try to run more screen passes. I don't hate screen passes. Screen passes are good. Screen passes work. I don't really understand this one where you're not going to block Kevin King, who's currently lined up on DK Metcalf. At this point, you're just basically hoping that Kevin King misses a tackle. It's also a little bit more confusing given that it's not really a screen pass because no one's blocking. This is kind of just a route. This isn't a traditional screen. Look, what you're going to see is that, I mean, this isn't technically a screen pass. Technically what this is just a route. It's just a route where you don't go anywhere. So I'm calling it a screen because it's the same effect, but what was going to happen there? And they did too many stuff like that where they were trying to find ways to get smaller, chunk plays and kind of do what, teams have to do against cover 2, which is run a methodical offense, but they weren't doing it in a very good way. They definitely should have ran the ball more. Only 10 carries with Alex Collins, another carry with Travis Homer. That was it for their, actual running back carries, 11 carries, and then 40 pass attempts with Russell Wilson, including 5 rushes. So 45 dropbacks to just 11 carries. When a team is playing cover 2, you can't do that for Seattle, which is definitely not what Seattle typically does. Typically, they're the opposite, where they run too much. Something like this is just incredible. And if you followed my pre-draft coverage, I got a lot of things wrong. I got some things right. One of the things I definitely got right was Eric Stokes. And this is exactly, not only did I get right that he's going to be good, but why he's going to be good. It's his speed. And people paid too much attention to the negatives with Stokes. Yeah, he's a little bit rough around the edges, but when you have speed, that just makes up for every other factor. No matter what issues you have, you're going to be fine if you can run fast. That really is the situation. This is actually a cover 2 man play, so hey, give credit to Green Bay in a sort of Hail Mary situation. They're not doing what they did last year in the NFC Championship game against Tampa Bay, so Good job learning, getting smarter, like that stuff. Obviously, new defensive coordinator helps. But what's going to happen on this play is it's Tyler Lockett, one of the premier deep threats in the league, going up against Eric Stokes. And what's interesting is watch the moves that Lockett is going to pull off here. Look at him go for outside leverage early on, then he's going to go for inside leverage, gets back to the outside leverage. So at this point, I mean, this is just, it's like toying with the rookie, right? On top of this, you now see that Amos, the safety, is a little bit too far in. He probably should have stayed further deep, which, listen, Amos having a great season, having a great career, quite frankly, not his best play, but that's fine. What's part of what's happening is, there's speed on the edges, so it's a little bit more difficult to get over there in the first place. And, he's protecting the first down marker a little bit, so it does make some sense. But at this point, you can kind of see the logic of why Wilson wants to make this throw. You see that Stokes has his head completely turned around. The issue is that Stokes doesn't have to panic here because he knows that he's not going to get beat deep. He still knows, even with all this, back and forth, he can easily just get his head turned around. Watch, he can just stay with Lockett and eventually is able to get his head turned around, see the ball. It was a bit overthrown, so he couldn't make a play on it. Honestly, if that's a perfect throw by Wilson, it might be intercepted. That's how good of a coverage it was by Eric Stokes. So speed on the edge really helps you out. And especially when you think about, hey, Jair Alexander can be on the other side. That's a dangerous combination. It truly is. There was also something like this, where this is kind of maybe a good example of what went wrong for Seattle. This is late in the game. They're just trying to make something happen. But it's a good just sort of metaphor for the game itself, I would say. You again have Tyler Lockett, who's going to run a double move down the field against this cover 2 zone. And when Wilson takes the snap, he runs the play action. You're going to notice that. So the initial part of this play works. In that yellow box, you're like, hey, good job. You beat Darnell Savage. Really good move there by, Tyler Lockett. That's what Lockett does, especially when he's going up against a safety. Like, yeah, he's going to be able to pull that off. The issue, of course, is that Adrian Amos, who I mentioned earlier, he's in prime position to take this one away if it is a throw down the field, which, again, makes sense given the situation. You really need another receiver running deep to take away Amos if this is what you want to do. If you want to push the ball down the field for 30 or 40 yards, you can't just have one guy going deep. So I don't know exactly what Seattle was doing here, but this is also kind of what this coverage does to teams, is it forces you to, are you really going to send 3 receivers all the way down the field and hope that that works out? Because if it doesn't, well, then you might be screwed, since you won't have anyone else over the middle of the field, and also corners can read it and stay deep as well. But, at least that's better than sending one guy down the field. Wilson's going to take this chance. I'm not sure if he just never saw Amos or what. My guess is that he saw that Lockett was getting open, but just wasn't really thinking about, hey, this is cover 2. There's another safety there. Good job by Amos, though, to read it and, make him pay, right? When teams make a mistake, it happens, but you got to make them pay. That's what Amos did right there. So, and honestly, that's kind of what the Packers did all game. Is this was not a flawless game by Seattle, but they just made Seattle pay for their mistakes. Like this one's going to be another example where it's going to be a cover 2 man, and this is the Kevin King play where I got to be honest. Like I know people are very excited about Kevin King. This is not a great play by Kevin King. That's how I view it, and let me explain why. So it's going to be a cover 2 man, and what's going to happen is that Metcalf is running a route where he's basically running straight into a double team. That's what's happening. Like, look, Metcalf is going to, run over the middle, and King drops him off basically for a second because he knows he has safety help over here. Now, I've paused it at this point, so King's doing everything right. I want to be clear. It's not a bad play by King. It's just there's safety help. That's why King is able to hold his own against Metcalf. At this point, I get why Wilson wants to make this throw. It's 3rd down, and you do see that Metcalf he can see the ball, whereas King has his back turned. But it's going to be kind of just one of those, like, awful situations where look at what happens right after Wilson throws it. Literally immediately, King turns his head around and is able to get the interception. Part of me wonders, did Kevin King actually look up at the screen and see? I know team players will do that sometimes. I think that's potentially possible. I think more likely, though, is he knew he had safety help. So if, Metcalf, after King turns his head, then Metcalf tries to run in another direction, he's just running into another Green Bay player. So as a whole, I think that's just not a great decision by Russell Wilson more than anything. But again, make them pay for their mistakes, right? King still made the play. He still finished. So was it a little lucky? Yeah. Did he make him pay? Also, yes. So yeah, that's what I thought. Listen, bit of a longer video, right? I had a lot to say about this, but very fun game. Green Bay Packers are good. I mean, Packers are, there's a legitimate argument that they should be Super Bowl favorites, especially with the way kind of everything else has gone. So Packers, very good team. And there's that thing now, right? You lose to the Saints 38-3. The Buccaneers did it last year and won the Super Bowl. Maybe the Packers will follow. We'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.